G'day everyone and welcome to another edition of the Weekend Wrap, coming to you strangely enough on a Wednesday night, but fortuitously, because there's been tons going on in relation to the Crows just today, with some trades announced, or potential trades announced with free agency. Tons to talk about. Let's get right into it. Macca and Nikki, how you going, guys?
Well, everything's happened today. You're spot on. It was a good call
Right.
on us to go. Let's push it till later in the week.
Yeah, no, it's good on the Crows to just hold it till we had our show tonight, and well done by them for that.
Classic programming, I think.
Oh well, we'll go give you the big tick there for you must have contacts inside the Crows, but it's been a big day, hasn't it? Really, big day.
Huge day. Look, we want to just say good day to everyone that's on the chat at the moment. Welcome to Vardy. Welcome to PJ Crows. Welcome to everyone who joins us both on Facebook and YouTube, as well as Twitch. Get around us on Discord. You can go to the AFLCrowCast.com website, go to the live chat page, and hook into Discord there if you don't have Discord on your phone or device. Yeah, I mean, it sort of came out of left field. I didn't think that we'd hear much for the next week or so with the grand final coming up, but two big announcements today, and I guess now the fun begins, I suppose.
Well, it really does, and we won't really know for a while, and because if it goes all the way through to free agency, we will not know we will not know what our compensation is until that happens, and that's in about 4 weeks' time, 3-4 weeks' time.
Free agency free agency is the
October
first week
30,
in November.
Isn't it?
Yep. Okay. So we were just talking off air, and I know Fiona and I we share the same opinion. We think that Brad and the Crows and the Saints will have been talking for quite some time, and they know the rules in the fact of what we want. We want pick 2. That means we need the compensation. We need the contract between Brad and the Saints to be appropriately at that level. And my guess at it is he's got a 5-year contract at 700 plus, just to tickle over to satisfy them, because they want their draft picks because they've got their eyes on other players as well. And they did a very good job with their draft picks last year with what they got, and the Saints. And Brad will add very nicely to it. And if they can prize away the young lad from GWS as well, to who they're after, they'll have done very, very well. But they've got other players as well they've got their eyes on. So my take on it is, and I think yours is absolutely the same thing, is that I reckon we'll end up with pick 2.
Well, and that's the end of the cast.
Well, I didn't have
Done. We're happy.
Covered it all in the first 5 minutes. Nick,
No, there's plenty of other players to talk about, though.
Nikki, what's your take?
It's going to be interesting because I did see a couple of things that if it's in the high 600s, it still might not be enough. I think it's like 685 where it has to. That's where it hits the band 1 threshold. The length doesn't matter, unfortunately, and that's actually what he wanted. So it could be that we may end up actually only with a band 2 if it's 680 or if it's 685. We may actually end up with band 2.
Yeah. My personal view is similar to Macca's. I can't see the point in St Kilda doing the deal if it's going to cost them draft picks, because if it drops to band 2, we will match, and then the Saints don't have any trade currency. They haven't got much in the first round, so it's worth St Kilda's while to spend a bit more money to save themselves their first round pick, and to also guarantee that they get Brad. And I don't think they've got terrible salary cap issues at the moment, St Kilda.
They've actually bagged a lot, Fee.
Yep, exactly. They got, 700 over 4 would get it over the line, I think, for band 1.
Yeah.
And I don't
see
why St Kilda wouldn't do that. I mean, reportedly Brad's on between 600 and 650 with us at the moment. So clearly, if they're going to offer 680 over 4, we'd just say, well, that's not enough. We're going to match. And I think we'd probably be prepared to hang on to Brad at 680 over 4, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And let's remember that Brad's first wish stated publicly was to stay. Family issues or family ties, his partner, etc., etc. So he's not going to be terribly opposed if the Crows match and he ends up staying. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but what I mean by that is that we've got leverage in this deal, and I think that Adelaide and St Kilda would be well aware of the permutations, and they would have just gone straight down the line and said, all right, 700 over 4, that'll give you band 1, we don't have to spend a pick, everyone's happy, play on.
100% agree. I can't see why it would be announced now otherwise, because you don't announce something that's going to be pointless and not happen.
No, well, that's right, Macca. And look, to be perfectly honest with you, when I read that it was St Kilda today, my first thought was, do you know what? That's a really good system for Brad Crouch to be in. If ever there was a coach,
they need him.
Yeah, but if ever there was a coach that was going to get the best out of Bradley Crouch, it's the bloke who used to play quite similarly to him in Brett Ratton.
Excellent point, Theme. Excellent point.
They're very similar players. Ratton was a hard nut in and under, got a lot of the ball. Very similar type. I think Ratton would know Brad Crouch's game very well, and as a result, I think that we might see some good matches out of Brad in St Kilda Guernsey, and I think he finishes off their midfield quite nicely, to be honest.
Well, we don't. Yeah. I had looked at their midfield because they listed in the paper today what he is going to slot into, and he certainly is the missing link in there. There's no doubt about it. He will fit in there like a hand in the glove, and you're quite right. The coach is the right coach for him. He is the type of person that, I mean, our coach last year, I think, was a little bit soft at times, and then he tried to become a little bit tough, and because he's learning the game. But Ratton, he knows the game. He knows the game already, and he's very good. He knows how to handle people. He knows how to handle players, and he worked very, very well with the St Kilda team, and I think they'll be a very good force next year as well. So I think it worked for St Kilda. There's no doubt about that. It worked. We get band 1, and get pick 2. It worked for us, and it'll work for Brad as a player.
Yeah, no doubt, mate. Does anyone honestly think that it doesn't go ahead? I mean, there's been lots of hand-wringing and permutations on Big Footy and on Twitter and whatnot. Does anyone seriously think that at this late stage it doesn't go ahead with band 1 compensation?
It will happen. That's my statement. It will happen. It just is. As I said, it would be pointless to announce it at this stage, that close to the free agency taking place, if it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. So I think a dead set it will happen.
Yeah, I think so. Nick, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think it will. Particularly this early, it's being announced. It's just pretty much getting everybody accepting to it.
It's ducks in a row, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
So
that's exactly right.
And all the talk. I mean, the Crows officially can't match. Well, an offer officially can't have been made to Brad because we haven't hit the 30th of October yet. So Adelaide can't officially declare whether they're going to match or not. So we're going to have a few days, 9 days of speculation. But the simple fact is that I'm sure that all parties would be well aware of exactly what's on the table, and they would have already come to terms, I'd imagine. And I would be surprised if it takes very long into the free agency period of trade week to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it'll roll over very, very quickly indeed. Because if we are right in our assumption that the Ducks are all line up for both of us, both clubs and the player, then there's no point in holding it back. So you just do it, so you can get on with the next.
Yeah, Hartigan is the left field one, or left field-ish, I guess. A little bit unexpected.
You happy, Macca?
Well, actually, yeah, I have to say this about Hartigan. I have belted shit out of him at times, but not for the fact that he can't play, because he can actually play. He's fast, he's strong.
Yeah.
But when he has to think, well, fuck me, we're in trouble because he makes the wrong decision. But if they can just get him to play, if the coaches just get him to play without thinking, in other words, just do it as part of the process and automatically, he is a good player, and he'd be a much better player if he were to do that. He's not a great thinker of the game, because once he starts thinking about it, he goes for a dinky little pass, and that's not his game, and he's just not good at that.
How many big men are good distributors of the ball? Like when you think about other teams, how many other teams are successful in having?
It takes too long.
Yeah,
it takes too long for the message from the brain to get down to the feet.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
But so while I belted him, I'm going to miss him because I thought he had his best year this year. I thought he played some excellent games this year, and that's undoubtedly why Hawthorn have looked at that. They've got a hole there now that what's his name is retired, Frawley. He just slots in there very neatly for them, and he'll do as good a job as Frawley did. And the only time they'll have their heart in their mouth is if he decides to do a short pass in the back lines. Well, God knows who will hit on the chest. But he's a good enough. He is a good AFL player, but he's just got to play instinctively rather than try and think.
Look, I actually felt that Hartigan played very well when he came back into the side as a defender.
He did.
There's still the brain fades, and that's well documented. But as a defender, he is a very good player, and he's quite versatile because we've seen him play on tall opponents and also short small forwards as well with reasonable success. So you bet your life, Macca and Nick, that Alistair Clarkson will have someone running past Hartigan every time he's got the ball.
He would certainly be aware of whatever weaknesses Hartigan has got, because he would have they'd look at the tapes, and they'd work it all out how he'd fit in. And I have no doubt, he'll do a Henderson. Henderson had a very good career at Hawthorn
as a role player,
in a particular role, and I expect Hartigan to do the same at Hawthorn. But now the big question is, and the talking point from my point of view is, he's 28 years of age, but they're talking about a 3-year contract, and I would think his salary would be what, 350, 400, something like that. Would that be right?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be any more than 400.
Yeah, he's unrestricted though as well.
So what do you mean by that, Nick?
I think doesn't that kind of affect the compo as well?
No, I don't think so. It just means that we can't match. So.
Yeah. But I'm thinking that if he gets a 3-year contract, and if he gets 350 to 400, that's going to put him in either the lowest band or the second lowest band. And but even that gets us a reasonably good draft pick.
Well, I think it puts him in the same compo band as Rory Atkins. What Rory go for? 450 over 5 or something like that?
No.
He's gone for higher.
He's gone. No, he's. I reckon he's going to get us a second rounder because his contract is 5 by 500.
5 by 500. Well, the length doesn't matter, but 500 does, and he's 20... What's Rory, 23?
26? 26. No, 26. 25, okay. 25, 26.
Well, yeah, I reckon... I don't know whether it gets us into the second round. It probably gets us a third round.
I think it's a band 3.
I don't think it's
band 3 is what?
I don't think it's a second round pick. Band 3 is a second round pick. Band 1 is what we're looking at for Brad. Band 2 is end of first round. Band 3 is end of second round. No.
Band 3 is not in the second round. It's a second round pick, isn't it?
Well, pick after our second round pick, which will be end of second round, mate. By the time all the bloody I'm talking. Yeah, but I'm talking about as they stand now. You have to talk about as they stand. Well,
now.
It'll be a pick after our second round pick which will be 21.
Yes, and looking at the rules, the where you are on the ladder has no bearing on it. It's just you're either in that category or you're not in that category. The category being the whole 1 to 18.
Oh yeah, no, I understand that. I don't think we'll get that though for him. Honestly, don't.
Well,
but who knows? Who knows? Has any club ever lost three players in one off season to free agency?
No.
So,
but look at the bigger picture though. What have we got to pick up, and what do we need? Draft picks for points.
We do.
This is helping us out very nicely.
Well, I would go further and say that we've probably got more than we need.
Which means we might be. Are we going to make the Bulldogs pay?
Well, we will do that, of course. I think we would not be doing our jobs as a football club if we did not go for the Bulldogs academy player at pick 1. We have to do that, and we also have to be.
But if we do that, we still don't have a pick 1.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I know, but that just tickles my funny bone.
Not interested about glamour, just results.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about permutations in the draft in a little bit. Let's talk quickly about some of the other free agency moves that we know of. And the big one, of course, was Jeremy Cameron off to Geelong. Those paper bags down at Geelong must be very, very deep.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how you can keep on getting players. And they say that they treat players coming to the club, they make sure they don't get as much as the existing stars there, etc. Oh, bullshit. Yeah, I cry absolute bullshit to that because of the fact that...
Well, the players don't. Their families do.
Well, Matt, okay, you're really saying, Nikki, there's an overall package done in a certain way that makes sure that they get a good result. And
yes.
And because you don't leave... Jeremy Cameron's been offered a huge amount at GWS. And Geelong are not going to say, well, good on you, Jeremy. Here's 500 for you, mate. I mean, so
he'll be there on 750. He'll be there on 750
at least.
But look, they've got Ablett coming off the books. They've got Henderson coming off the books. They've got Harry Taylor's contract ending, irrespective of whether he retires or continues. His next contract will be a fraction of what it was. So, I mean, they are freeing a bit of money up. But even so...
but they did talk about the fact that when Ablett came back, that he wasn't on big money.
That's right.
That was their selling point. So everybody said, oh yeah, Ablett's going off the book. It's like, well, apparently he's not on a lot though. Taylor, I think, was on a decent amount, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Would it be too much compared to Danger or Selwood, etc., or even Ablett? You would think. But I did find it very interesting. But before Jeremy Cameron, that announcement made, there was some grumbling in the media about, do we have to look at the salary cap down at Geelong? So I think there was some awareness that something was coming, and the media some of that Vic media was starting to circle a little bit.
the other thing with Geelong is they've got a couple of young lads, Parfitt in particular, that they've offered a short-term contract because I think they're trying to line that up with Dangerfield and Selwood coming out of contract in a couple of years. But they've got a couple of young lads down there that they're going to have to try and retain over the next couple of years. So, I mean, whoever works their TPP is a magician. And look, let's spare a thought too. Let's just have a moment's silence in the podcast for our good mate Josh Jenkins. Because
I know.
I'm sorry, it is meant to be silent.
Funny
because
ruined his grand final.
What's JJ going to do? He's going to be playing down at bloody, I don't know, whatever the
Corio
districts are around there, down at Moggs Creek.
Well, yeah, but sadly he's the highest paid player down there ever.
Oh.
We're paying some of it.
Yeah,
no, that finishes this year.
Yeah,
Are
thankfully
you sure,
that's...
Nicky?
Yeah, it is.
It finishes. No, it finishes for Eddie, but I thought there's another year to go on his.
Don't know.
But I think we were only paying the first year, towards the first year though.
I hope so. Yeah, I mean, he's been absolutely useless. He got one game with Geelong, and he did very little, and he won't get any more games.
Well, I mean, will they retain him? I don't know what his contract is, but they
He was
got
on 1 year
Radaglia.
contract.
They got Radaglia there. They got Hawkins. They got Jeremy Cameron. They got a fair amount of tools.
He picked a poor club to go to.
Oh my goodness me! Yeah, and you know what? He get one game as a backup ruck, basically. So
I think I guess possessions off memory.
I guess you get what you deserve, don't you? In relation to that, and Josh probably, it could be said that maybe he's getting what he deserves right now. Anyway.
I know that his aim in life was to become big in the media, and he was going to use sport as part of that. But it's pretty hard to do that when you're just hanging around the suburbs playing that football there.
He's very much into his American sport. I think he's got a gig with. He did have a gig with ESPN, doing some writing with them.
Yeah,
he'll be right. He's got enough of.
He's also very big in harness racing. I race paces, and he writes a lot about that as well.
Yeah. So now, who else did we have? We've had about half the Essendon squad announce that they want to leave. They're in a massive quandary at the moment.
Well,
that says a lot for Rutten.
Yeah, it does. I don't think Benny's got the people skills. That's what I think.
I don't think it's on Rutten at all. I don't think it's.
Well,
I think it's much more deep seated than Benny Rutten.
Yeah. There's massive. But I was just kind of alluding to, how would you feel as your coach? You're coming in, and all the players want to leave. I mean, it may not be ultimately to do with you, and I think you're right. There are massive issues at that club.
Yeah.
That we know. But where this podcast started was actually all around their massive issues. And I don't think they've fixed it. They've still got their head in the sand so much about that.
Yeah, look, I think it's a situation there where the whole list needs to turn over, but also most of the admin needs to turn over as well. I think they just need to coin a phrase, drain the swamp there. And until they do so and start to rebuild that culture, they're just not going to get buy-in from players, in my view. But that it won't stop Dodoro from asking for for 2 first rounders for Orazio or Fantasia, because
that's what he does.
Dodoro, he makes me laugh. He's held in such high esteem by the Victorian media as being such a tough negotiator and all the rest of it. He's been at that club for 22 years, and how many premiership lists has he built in that time?
Well, the thing about him is that
zero.
The thing about him, Feedy, I think he's actually a negative to the club because
absolutely
last year they could have got, I think it was pick 5 and maybe a second rounder for the broken down one, and who's now gone off to Brisbane for free. So he's cost them.
Gotcha.
I mean, and he does that every year. Yep. And So I think he's one of the greatest liabilities that club's had. He thinks he swans around. I always call him El Dorado because he swans around like he thinks he made a goal. But but he all the deals always fall through. 99% of the Essendon deals fall through. He'll get through one occasionally where he screwed some poor club that's finally agreed. But geez, he's lost them so much, and I think it's a real big negative.
Yeah,
but their fans look at it as, oh, he's talking tough. We don't want to lose a player and we get to keep them. And they think he's done such a good job because he's so unreasonable that nobody wants to work with him.
That's all ego bullshit, you know. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a results-driven business, and the simple fact is that he's been at Essendon for 22 years or whatever it is, and in that time they've won one premiership, and he certainly wasn't involved in building that squad, you know, and since then he hasn't been able to build a premiership squad. Even when they were going through their drug cheating, that squad wasn't going to win a flag anyway. That's why they had to cheat. The expectations of that club were far higher. That this is the thing with Essendon. The ego of that club is so great and the expectations are so unrealistic that when they don't win, they are so offended by it that they had to resort to what they did in 2015 or 2016.
And there's a lot of money around that club. There's a lot of very high-powered business people that expect results.
But I'm 100% with you, Macca. 100% with you. Dodoro, you know, he can talk tough as much as he likes, but the simple fact is it's all his own personal ego, and as a consequence, he's got nothing to show for it.
And the player Dana, he's going to Brisbane for nothing, for zero.
Exactly.
They'll get a compensation pick for him, but I can't see him being a first rounder because he's played so little football in the last 3 years.
Oh no, I think it will be. Because it'll be contract size. Oh, Brisbane will give Danaher 700. Well, it's a very interesting situation. I think there's a bit to play out in that one. Because Daniel McStay is quite a good player, and I think them going hard at Danaher basically signals that they've lost a bit of faith in McStay, and I think that might be a bit misplaced because they play on that bloody short ground at the Gabba, and we all know that you play on a short ground, it makes it very difficult to play two talls, and they play the other lad Hipwood, and I just think they don't maybe have the structure right to accommodate the both of them. It's going to be very interesting to see how they play Danaher and what happens to Hipwood and McStay. I wouldn't mind betting that McStay comes up in trade discussions with a few clubs. And
there'd be quite a few clubs that want him as well because he's not a bad player.
Yeah, well, one I can think of off the top of my head is GWS.
Absolutely. And talking about GWS, their day in the sun's gone. The window's closing, Fiend. They had probably 2 or 3 years there where they were getting close and they just didn't quite make it. And but because they're getting drained of players right, left, and centre, they have been constantly. And yes, they've been replaced with some nice draft picks, but they're not at the same level as they once had a side full of first rounders, and now they're just joining the queue. And I think GWS are going to be a club on the decline.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we've talked about the heart and soul of that club, or the lack thereof, and I think the players themselves know that they've missed an opportunity. They didn't play for their coach in 2020. It beggars belief that Leon Cameron got an extension, because I just don't think a bloke provided with that much talent at his disposal can't get that team up on grand final day. I don't think the bloke can coach. And
I don't think he can either.
No, there's no proof on the table. There's no proof on the table that Leon Cameron can coach. And I think the exodus of players, and let's remember, Cameron was a foundation player. Almost the last of the Mohicans in terms of the original squad. And for him to move away to a club that's in the, you could argue is in the premiership window, Geelong, certainly at the pointy end, that's a big call. And he can say that he wants to be down near home and do his fishing and all the rest of it as much as he likes. But the simple fact of the matter is he's getting on in terms of his AFL career, and he'd be wanting a flag.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, he played this year like a player who did not want to be there.
Oh, and half a dozen of them did the same.
Yeah. When you look at the quality of the side of the GWS, and we beat GWS at Feen.
Yeah. They will be picked to pieces over the next couple of years. You've got some very, very, very good players in that team. Toby Green will be headhunted, in my opinion. The guy that plays off wing, the left footer, what's his name? I always forget his name. You like him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I do, and he's not actually a left footer. He's a right footer feet. He's just such a beautiful kick either foot.
Yeah. He'll be headhunted. Harry Himmelberg, I reckon, will be headhunted. These blokes that have been in the system for quite a while up there will be right for
Does
the
Harry
picking.
want to come play with his brother?
Well, there is that option. I think it costs too much for us, but there'll be people sniffing around. And see, the thing with those blokes, Green, etc., they're going to be hunting flags. They're going to be going to clubs that are in the window or thereabouts. So it'll be very interesting. But I think they're in a world of pain, GWS.
I agree. And J-Mac, with wisdom as advisor, said it's Whitfield that we were stumbling over. We knew we were talking about.
Yeah, you guys you had the wooer going, but you.
I know.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things that sometimes a name will come, and sometimes it just won't.
Yeah,
it
it
won't
just
come.
disappears.
It just won't.
That's right. But we can always rely on everyone in the chat, though, Mako.
Well, they just sit there, lying back, listen to the shit we dribble, and
they just fill in the blanks.
And just fill in the blanks. Yeah, thanks, fellas.
So who else we got in free agency world at the moment? I can't think of anyone else off the top of my head.
There would have to. Or do we talk about Fantasia?
Oh no, that's not free agency. So I just wanted to cover.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. He is contracted. Yeah, that's an interesting one though, Fantasia, because I think we'll have El Dorado there trying to screw Port for.
Yeah, well, I just want to cover a free agency first, Maker, if you don't mind. We go on left, right, and centre here.
Apologies, I
know you're very excited, but we'll cover all of it. But Nick, can you think of any other free agents that have been announced? I can't think of any.
No, there might have been, but they weren't big enough to make any news on my radar.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about our draft position as it sits now, because obviously, the Crouch situation has been speculative, but now we've got a little bit more certainty around it. We don't know the pick yet, but I think we can safely work on pick 2 for the sake of the conversation. It opens up a few options for us. We can play a straight back and take 1, 2, and 8 to the draft, or we can get a bit creative.
Well, yes, I was going to raise this with you, Fame, but I shut up because I've already taken you off track so many times. I think there's a real possibility here that, and I haven't got it in front of me, so I can't say which clubs, but this is a year where so many clubs have got the players that have been that they've got linked to them that they want to take, and they'll be able to take. But there's also people who are going to bid on them, and they need draft picks to make sure that they can get them. The academy players, etc., father, son, or those type of players. And there's some very good players there that will be bid on early, and I just don't know which club, and maybe somebody out there on the chat might have a better idea than I do. Anyhow, we've got so many picks at the moment. I think we've probably got 2 or 3 excess more than we're going to than players at least. So we could actually, it could be a situation we could bundle up picks that'll give that a club more points than their first round pick is worth. So that way, get ourselves another first round pick.
And who's that? Who's that? That's the first scenario I want to put to you, because I think we've got, if we get compensation for Atkins, Hartigan, and Crouch, I think Western Bulldogs number 12 comes into play for us. That's one of the clubs I was definitely was aware of that one. Yeah, I think there's a deal to be done with the Dogs pick, given that their first rounder is going to be spent on their academy guy, and all they care about is points. That's all they care about. And we've got a wheelbarrow. The Banook's going to walk in there with a wheelbarrow full of picks and points and say, "Here you go, Bulldogs, how do you want to play this?" And I can see that happening. Yeah, the Bulldogs already, I think they're about 255 in deficit already. So points are the currency. Who cares what the pick is? So I think that is very much in play, which then gives us 1, 2, 8, and what is it, 12 or 14 or something? 14. Yeah. So that's 4 first round picks in a draft that is a bit of a crapshoot. It is a crapshoot, no doubt about that. Yeah. So
you know what I think Banook also needs to be doing?
Well, getting off Twitter, because
is with some of these excess picks is looking to get into next year.
Absolutely, Nick. Absolutely, Nick. And it's going to be difficult, Nikki, because everybody knows that next year's draft at this stage is going to be a midfielder's paradise. There's lots of prospects, and it becomes a question of, can you make something tasty enough for a club like Essendon or Sydney? I don't think you're going to entice North Melbourne, but Essendon, Sydney, maybe Gold Coast, to part with a first round pick in 2021. I almost think that a pick swap into 2021 is going to cost us 2 first rounders, 8 and 14. That's what I think. You reckon? Oh, absolutely, Macca.
Absolutely.
The relative value of the two, because let's face it, all of the players that are going to be picked in the first round, bar the WA and SA boys, are unknown quantities. They haven't been able to play. There's no exposed form. Some of them are coming off injuries, like Hollins and Bruin and a few others. They're all going to be 12 months behind on their physical development. They're all going to be behind on their match day development because they just simply haven't been able to kick a footy around. So whereas next year, all things being equal and things getting back to normal, those lads that are going to come up next year are going to have the benefit of 12 months worth of footy behind them. And there's already been blokes identified as out-and-out guns in the 21 draft. So I think a first-round pick in 2021 is going to be far more valuable than a first-round pick in 2020. Well, everything you said is true, but I actually agree with one of the lads in the chat, Sergio, who said that he wouldn't swap 8 and 14 because we need players now to develop.
But we'll have 1 and 2.
Yeah, but Nikki, I think Geelong built their whole premiership situation on one draft, and I know that as Fiend's quite right, there's a bit of a crapshoot, but we've also got the ability to get hold of other people's first rounders. In other words, I would hope that the team, Ogilvy and co, have at least followed it enough and spoken to the players, watched what they're doing, etc. And put it this way, it's Victorians which make up about, I'm not sure the percentage they make up, I think it's about, is it 40% or 60% they make up?
60.
They make up if they make up 60%.
Yeah, 60.
So we've got access, clear access to 40%. So, and then of that 60%, that's where the crapshoot definitely takes place. But there's probably, I still probably say there's probably about a dozen at the top that they would not, that would have been expected to be going top if all things had happened. And I'm sure our boys would have done their work on that, and they'll be able to work out possibly which ones they should take.
But that's only part of the argument, Mac. That's only part of the argument. And I do agree. I think the recruiters will have worked very, very hard this year to make an as accurate a assessment as they possibly could. But my argument is this, right? You're going to get a player into your system from this draft if he's from Victoria that has not been able to play one game of football for 12 months. That lad is not going to figure in 2021. I can guarantee you any kid coming out of Victoria in this draft is going to struggle to get a game next year because physically they are just not going to be ready. So my argument is, on that basis, why bother?
Yeah.
Because next year, hang on, let me finish. Next year, the players that you pick up next year, all things being equal, they will have had 12 months worth of football behind them, and they'll be just as ready as the lads that have been picked up this year at the same time.
And I don't think there's any argument against what you're saying at all. But the whole point is, but you also your argument also justifies the fact that, and as one of the, and again what somebody's posted in the chat, we're a weaker team than we were yesterday, and there's no doubt about that. We're not going to be high flying next year. There's no doubt about that. We'll be in that bottom 4 or 5. There's no doubt about that. So we will get access to a good player again next year.
Just on this, so if we have those 4 first-round draft picks this year, so that's 4 kids that, as Fiend has pointed out, probably aren't going to. Maybe one might get a couple, 1 or 2 might get a couple of games next year, but not all 4.
Depends who we get.
But literally, you're going to carry those kids not being able to play for 12 months on a reduced list size, which we don't know what it is yet because the AFL and the AFLPA are still bloody arguing about it. Nobody can tell us what's going on. So that's my hesitation a little bit around having 4. Do we really need those 4 there?
I reckon we'll be taking more than 4 because what about our academy players? To me, I think it's a situation that we will use our 4 first rounders and then try and use the balance on the academy players. And
because Port will definitely bid on Borlays.
But they've got their own problems.
They don't have the currency, Nick. They've got their own academy guy they need points for. I don't think they're going to have the points to be able to bid on Borlays.
They won't be bidding on Borlays because the bloke that they want out of West Torrens, he is a bloody ripper, and I would hope that we bid on him at pick 8. I mean that guy is going to be a very good, very, very good footballer. Yeah, very good footballer.
So there's a few, and I don't want to belabor the point because there's varying points of view, and we're all sort of flying in the dark. But I guess it'll play out over the next couple of weeks, where it will become a bit clearer whether the club decides, as you say, Macca, to strike while the iron's hot and fill the pockets, or whether they try and leverage into next year's draft, which is full of midfielders, which essentially is what we need.
Yep.
The first round this year has got a few midfielders. It's got a couple of talls. It's got a good defender. It's got a couple of running half backs. It's got a couple of forward mids. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. But in 21, there's some bona fide midfielders in that group.
And that's what we really need. That's where we're lacking in our list. That's why I'm looking at what we do for this draft, but I'm going to be very interested in what we do around trade period as well, as to whether there's pick swaps that happen, because I think that'll give us a little bit of a gauge if we kind of figure out what we're kind of angling towards. And I think you're spot on, Fiend. It's a 2-year plan. It's not a 1 year. It's a 2-year plan, definitely going on.
Yeah, but you think about it. As one of the guys have posted here on the chat again, which is exactly what I was about to go to, is I would, and presumably go for McDonald, the Western Australian boy, in preference to the local lad. But it could be either one. But say it's McDonald. We go McDonald and Holland with 1 and 2. O'Driscoll in West Australia at 8. Borlays and Newchurch, who are academy players, and I'd forget about Luke Edwards. There's 5 players, and they are 5. For example, McDonald's already, he's proven he's going to be a player of the future. Yep. So you know, Hollands, as long as his leg is okay, he is going to be a gun of the future. O'Driscoll's had a very, very good year. I know that Fiend's very keen on him. Borlays has had a very good year, and Newchurch has got some very exciting tricks, and he's just got to be learn how.
But I'm completely cold on Newchurch. I think that I'm cold on Newchurch. I think there's an SANFL mid to be had, either Powell from Sturt or Poulter from Woodville West Torrens. One of those two. Actually, one of those two in the second round.
Talk about West Torrens. What about the lad from the half-back flank? What a leg on him.
Yeah, I know, but how many half-back flankers do we need?
We've got enough.
No, that's the problem. But I just think you're talking about the risk and the gambles. I think there's not that much of gamble as we're talking about.
Well, no, and you make a good point. The only in the players that you named, the only player that's impacted by the Victorian restrictions is Hollands.
Yep.
Every other player is either played, but like the 2 WA lads have played in the Waffle, and the rest have played in the SANFL. But
interesting enough, talking about the Western Australian boys, O'Driscoll, did you see his comment that he actually let it slip that the Crows are going to try and keep the 2 of them together?
Well, they interviewed them both at the same time, in the same house, in the same room.
No, but O'Driscoll's comment was more meaningful, saying that.
Yeah, but that was last week, Macca, and if you'd actually turned up last week, you would have heard me say that, just quietly.
But
I'll just sit here quietly.
I can't help it wasn't well, mate.
At least Nikki clocked in and clocked out. All I got from you was some drivelling excuse about 45 minutes. Look, don't feel bad for me, Mac. Feel bad for the poor people on bloody Discord and listening on Facebook and YouTube, listening to bloody me yammer on for 45 painful minutes, trying to make something out of nothing, with 3 blokes in the bloody chat. It was just, I felt for them. And
well, I feel compelled to make a statement here that
go ahead.
I have to apologise for those poor buggers out there who would
absolutely.
It would have been horrible, but well done to you 3. He stayed on.
Yeah. Well, even do you know what? It was so bad, and I bet you Vardy's typing this as we speak. It was so bad that even Vardy bailed halfway through. He bailed halfway through. And then came back onto the chat, coincidentally, just as it ended, and said, "Oh, is it finished already?" Yeah, thanks, Vardy.
Absolute pleasure. But look, Thane, you did soldier on well, and they all told lies and said you did good, so it's okay.
Nah, it was all good. Anyway, look, we won't belabor that point. It'll be very interesting to see how the club plays it, and there'll be a few other clubs in the same boat. Wondering, I think, whether to go hard this year in a slightly speculative compromise draft or whether to save up the bickies.
The point is, though, Finn, we've got so many options, it's unreal. I mean, because of the amount of draft picks we've got now, and we've got situations where we could do what you're talking about. We could go after people's first rounders this year. We could do many things. And so it's probably, we've never had this luxury in the draft. But we've got a 60% blind spot as well. So
yeah. Now look, I think the biggest challenge, if they did decide to try and get into the 21 draft, the biggest challenge is actually getting someone to cough up. My feel is that there's 2 options. You get Western Bulldogs will almost certainly come into play in some way. And under normal circumstances, I'd say that Essendon would be the other one that you could do a deal with. But then you realise it's Dodoro, and you just walk away from that. Sydney are the other one possibility, I think, that might be willing to talk. But it's not going to be easy to get into the first round in 21. And of course, I'm a massive G for Jason Horn from South. If his trajectory continues, it'll be. I will weep if he goes to a club other than the Adelaide Crows. I will absolutely. I'll weep openly.
Yeah. As a South Adelaide supporter, when they're not playing the Crows, I would be very appreciative of actually having a decent South Adelaide player up there once again.
What do you mean once again? You'd never had one?
No, I'm thinking like well back before the Crows. Mark Nailey.
Oh, Mark
but
Nailey,
no, I was just thinking, rare as hen's teeth. Nicky, I can't think of one.
I mean, well,
Shut up.
Mark Bickley, obviously.
Just because my mother was like 12 or something when they won their last premiership. Sorry, Mum, I've just realised your age.
I mean, Mark Bickley, our first premiership captain, was a South Adelaide boy, but I always thought that Mark Bickley was a bit like... remember that English captain, Brearley? He couldn't bat, he couldn't bowl, he just was a very good captain, and I think Bickley was exactly the same. He wasn't a great footballer, but he was just a good leader. So, anyway.
And he would scrap on to get the ball. He was good in that respect. Yeah. The hard ball.
He was good in his position, and his position wasn't a flashy one.
No, that's right. Anyway, look, what else have we got to talk about?
I've got to have a quick word about the grand final.
No. Jesus,
not the grand final.
There were two games last week that were very disappointing.
I wanted to mention Port's loss because the reason I say that is because I reckon they should have won the game, and the reason they lost the game.
Why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me?
Sorry.
Because Mac has got when he wants to talk about something, that's all his brain thinks about, and off he goes.
Well,
one advantage of you not being here last week was that I didn't have to bloody wrestle the bloody playlist back off you. Anyway.
Right, back to you.
Before we go further, is there any other draft or trade issues that we need to discuss? Orazio Fantasia was the one that I was leading towards, Mac. Do we have any interest in Orazio?
We have an interest in him, but he hasn't got an interest in us. He wants to go to Port Adelaide.
No, silly. Where'd you get that from?
Going from Port Adelaide.
Oh, come on, mate.
Excuse me, aren't they trying to talk up to their supporters after that disappointing showing on Friday?
Well, the point is, I don't know about Orazio because he's got a fair rap, when it comes to injuries as well, and he wouldn't be cheap because you have to deal with Essendon, and I don't know. I think I'd rather just build our own team rather than him.
Well, two things. I think the Crows are his preferred destination if he had a choice, but I think equally that there's no place for him in our list. I agree with you 100%, Mac.
And the price will be too high.
Injury prone, he doesn't fit the profile. His price would compromise our salary cap position. I actually think if he can get on the park and stay on the park, he is cherry ripe for Port Adelaide. I think Port Adelaide need a dynamic small forward. But here's the kicker with Orazio. He's a free agent next year. So if he was dead keen on getting to Adelaide, what I'd be saying to Orazio is, right, you put 15 games together in 2021 and you kick 30 goals. If you can stay on the park for 15 games and kick 30 goals for Essendon, then we'll have a think about it. Because then we can pick him up as a free agent. Right now, I wouldn't pay the money, and I wouldn't pay the draft picks or the players to get that over the line. That's my view.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. 100%.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the prelim finals last week very quickly. The first one, of course, was a very sad occasion for anyone that barracked for Port, and for all the rest of us, it was bloody awesome.
Well, I made very good money. I couldn't believe the price I got on Richmond. Just couldn't believe the price.
There was so much hype about Port Adelaide.
Well, what I was really going to say before, though, Finn, when I interrupted you, was the fact.
Yes.
Was the fact, and I do apologise for that because I do it occasionally.
Sometimes.
Was the fact that I thought the game was during the week. I thought Port could possibly win this game, and I really still think they probably should have if they'd picked the right team. I thought that they actually lost the game at the selection table. How the hell do you ever go into a pouring wet game with 3 tools? One of them is Marshall with a busted up bloody shoulder.
Yeah.
Dixon, who doesn't take too many bloody marks in the game, and a second ruckman. For me, and the other part was you're taking Burton, who's
he was overdone. He was cooked.
Well, he played one game, and you got to bring him into. No, you're not going to bring him in. You would have brought in. You should have brought in Leonard in there.
Leonard was dead set stiff to be dropped the previous week. In my
yes,
opinion.
exactly. I would have had Leonard there because he's a good player. He's reliable. He's had good form all year. He knows the team pattern. So that's one. I would have Marshall. He would have been pissed out of the team, bang, and I would have had young Woodcock there because it's a wet day. And the old Westhoff, he would have got the ruckman spot and just been second ruck running around. Now, I reckon if they'd fielded that team, I think they would have won the game. But
they would have had a better chance, I think.
And I think, in Ken we trust, he's done it again.
I just don't think they took their opportunities, Mac. They had the chance to really put Richmond to the sword in the first half. And they didn't do it. I totally agree.
Yep.
Didn't do it, and you cannot give Richmond an opportunity. You just cannot do it. The thing about it is that Port's game plan is very one-dimensional, and it was very obvious that Ken had no plan to protect the outside of stoppage, which is where Richmond are at their most dangerous. They all run ahead of the ball. They just hustle and bustle and get the ball free, and away they go. Now, Port did not at any stage protect the outside defensive side of stoppage, and in that second half, they all got sucked into the ball, and Richmond players just hung off, and away they went. And it was as clear as anything. And you cannot tell... I understand that Ken Hinkley is a very good people person. He's a good manager. They all think he's great and all the rest of it. But he is a shit coach. He is a shit coach. And they will not win a flag. They will not win a flag until Jared Schofield takes over from Hinkley.
I 100% agree with you, Fee, because there were so many moves in that game. Like Rosie should have been on the ball in that second half. That's one that just jumps out. I told you, I reckon you got the selections wrong. Bloody Rockcliffe. How bad was Rockcliffe? Jeez.
Oh, it was,
And I'll add in Sam Powell-Pepper, because the number of times he's on that outside, he's got that outside runner. They were giving it to him, and he just kind of like watched the ball fall at his feet, going, "I didn't want that."
Yeah, they didn't play the conditions well.
Did not want to. Yeah, they didn't play the conditions well. They also, because they're very mindful of the Richmond defenders, they were going 1-on-1, but then they were still trying to kick it in, bring the ball in how they normally brought the ball in. You've changed your structure of your forward line. You actually need to adjust the way that you bring the ball in.
That last quarter was painful.
Oh, God, yes.
And
we also saw what Dixon does in showdowns, that when he thinks it's a big game, he goes the biff. He goes, I'm a big, tough man. Instead of playing his natural game, which he has been this year with that great flowing on and everything else, he went too physical, and it backfired on them completely. Oh my God, there was so much yelling at the television in the second half of how stupid they are.
I was laughing at the television because all they did was, in that last quarter, when they needed to spread and they needed to switch the play and take some risks, all they kept doing is going up and down that outer wing, up and down that outer wing.
Bomb, 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 bomb. Yeah.
And the definition of stupidity, doing something over and over again with exactly the same results.
It's what we've seen and cried about for years when we've played Geelong, and they've forced us into that, and we'll get to that game in a minute, but You know, Geelong forced us into that long kicking down the line game. It's exactly what Richmond did to us in the grand final, where they just choked the life out of us and forced us just to kick long and we stopped running. Port Adelaide didn't take any risks. There were plenty of opportunities for them to try and spread Richmond out a bit, but they never took the risks. And you get what you deserve, according to Kenny.
But also, to me, what it actually showed was that they had this big talk, but it showed those players who cannot cope in big games. And they're ones that they should be offloading. If they actually want to be in that premiership window, if they want to be contesting, those are the type of players you've identified from this game can't handle it.
Motlop,
you get rid of them.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair to Rockcliffe, to be fair to Rockcliffe, I think they've got it wrong a bit with Rockcliffe, and also he's quite, in terms of finals footy, he's quite inexperienced.
But he's slow.
Well, he's slow, but then you play him the same way that we play Matt Crouch.
Yeah, they played him in the wrong spot.
He's got to be the ball digger outer, and he's not played that way.
No, he's playing on the outside, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. So he's not being played correctly.
Bad coaching again. Yeah.
So I do not. You know, who the hell am I to say this? But I just don't rate Ken as a coach. You sit there and you watch games of football, and you think it's not just that there are speculative moves that need to be made, but it's just game plan. The game plan was lacking, and there was no runner to go out, you know, halfway through the last quarter when they needed to desperately take a risk or two. There was no runner to go out there and start telling blokes to switch the play and get on their bikes a bit. He just let them play that up and down the line for that whole quarter, and they never had a chance as a result.
Well, the problem with the runner situation, though, is that then under the current rules, they're not allowed to go out there other than when a goal's been kicked, and there was just so little score. So, and I think,
but the thing of it is, Mac, they rotate off the bench, and Kenny can get a message down to the bloke on the bench saying, "Oh, when you get back out there, tell people to start spreading." It's not hard to get a message out. I
agree with you. If you're smart enough, you'll get it done. And I don't think Kenny's smart. No, I think he's a very likeable bloke, nice bloke, honest, all the rest of it. But I'm with you. I don't think he'll ever win a flag.
No, I don't.
Yeah, and Vardy Magic's got it right. He was a great player. He's an okay coach. An okay coach won't survive in finals.
Well, let's not forget he got the job at Port.
To the very end.
He got the job at Port on the back of very high references from, was it GWS or Gold Coast? I can't remember. No, it was, where was Dixon? Dixon was Gold Coast, wasn't he?
He was Gold Coast.
Yeah. So Kenny as an assistant at Gold Coast was very, very highly regarded because he had that relationship with the players. And it's very different for a line coach because they can afford to in fact, they almost have to relationship build. Whereas a senior coach can be a little bit more aloof and detached. So Kenny came to Port on the back of being a very good people person, and I think he's proven to be a very good people person. You know, they definitely were playing for him, but I just don't. I think he just led them up the garden path because I don't think he has the tactical nous, and I think it's no coincidence that the years that they've been semi-successful, they've had good tacticians around him like Walsh and this year's Schofield. But they need someone else to take that over, I think. Anyway, the other one was terribly disappointing because I just felt like Brisbane shat themselves and never got into the game. They were a shadow of the team that beat Richmond the week before, and I think it all came down to finals nerves. I think they were spent before they got out there.
100% right, Fiend. You can almost smell them, the shit coming through the TV. It was such a poor performance. We're talking about players there that are very good players that have had great years, and they looked like they were just amateur players out there. They froze. They just froze. They just even worse than the Crows did in 2017. Worse.
Well, you know. Massive occasion for them, when you think about it, massive occasion for them because they're an inexperienced team in that circumstance. They're playing a preliminary final in front of their home ground, but the massive pressure was They were playing to deliver their supporters a bloody home grand final for the first and probably only time this century. You know, no pressure, boys. You've just got to beat Geelong, and you deliver us a grand final. And those young lads, they didn't have it in them. And we know they can play well because they beat Richmond at their own game the week before. But they didn't have it in them to be able to manage that situation, I don't think.
Yeah, it was all mental. And that then translated into poor physical performance. And I think you're quite right, Fiend. The occasion was too much, the pressure was too much, and they haven't been there before with that amount of pressure on them. They'll be better for it, but it doesn't help you this year, does it?
But before the final started, we had a chat about Brisbane, and one of the things I know that Fiend and I both raised was the problem we've got with their forwards is that mental aspects of their poor shots on goal. And we saw them, they had chances in the third and the fourth quarter. What should have been an easy shot on goal, and they were absolutely spraying it. And that comes down to that mental pressure.
Yep.
And I think even, yes, they'll have this experience. Will it help them? I think there'll still be an issue there with that. I think they will always sit there.
Well, they're bloody bringing in Danaher. It's not as if he's a sharp shooter.
Oh, God.
Jesus.
You found out, boys.
He'll make Hipwood actually look good.
Him and Hipwood, bloody, they'll be having a contest 50 metres out straight in front to see who can actually kick a point. Because most of them will go out in the bloody full.
The one advantage Danaher has that on the run he's actually a decent kick, but when he's a set shot, he's shite.
Yeah. Look, I like Brisbane. I think they've done amazingly well, and we'll talk about the Brownlow in a moment just to finish off. But there's no doubt that they play for Fagan. They love him. I think they've got a couple of chinks. I think Mitchie Robinson was found to be a little bit wanting. Cam Rayner is a terribly disappointing pick one, in my opinion.
And look, when he first started in the first couple of years, I thought he showed little glimpses. I thought he's going to be good.
Yeah.
But you're right. He's just still showing little glimpses.
Yeah, and there's nothing but a half forward at the moment.
No, and if you rated where you'd pick him now, he would be in the first 10. He would probably not be in the first 20.
Agree, and it's a real shame. They've got some nice tools. They've got a great engine room. Daniel Rich is the other one. How long can you hang on to Daniel Rich purely because he's got a lovely boot? The bloke is overweight. He doesn't run. He was directly responsible for that Gary Ablett goal that basically sealed the deal simply because he didn't chase. He didn't put any pressure on Ablett at all. He's terribly unfit.
Yeah, just to back you up at one stage there, Mrs. Mackey, who doesn't know all the players, says, "Who's that bloke with a fat ass?"
Yeah,
that happened to be him.
Yeah.
He said, he's got hips like a woman.
Yeah, Charlie Cameron, as the boys are pointing out in the chat, absolutely showed himself on a big stage.
Stinking.
And I don't have any animosity for Charlie. I think he did what he had to do, and we got a decent pick out of it. But I hope Charlie learns from this, because the only time, and Dersma's the other one for Port, the young lad. The only time you can afford to be arrogant is when you've already got the runs on the board. Charlie Cameron has not achieved a damn thing. He's played some great games. He had a brilliant preliminary final against Geelong when he was in Crow's colours. It was really a breakout game for him. He's had some fantastic highlights, but he hasn't won a damn thing yet. And Brisbane needed him to stand up, and he didn't. And if he's going to go showboating around with his motorbike and all the rest of it, he's got to actually deliver. And what he had less than 5 kicks, I think, for the game.
3 kicks, 2 handballs, 1 tackle.
That's just horrific from your star small forward. So I hope he learns from that, Charlie.
Well, just to add to what you're saying, that as a person who used to ride motorbikes when he was a young'un, they should point out to Charlie that there aren't 2 throttles on a motorbike. That's
right.
It's got a clutch on one side It's got a clutch on one side and it's got a throttle on the other.
Very good point, Macca.
Moving away two throttles. So never seen that motorbike yet.
Yeah. I don't think he's detail oriented, Charlie, in that regard. But anyway, and young Dersman's the same for Port, and I don't want to heap shit on him. He obviously dropped a mark that he should have taken, and people are saying he dropped the cut well. He had plenty of mates.
It was very wet and everything else, so
but the
it wasn't as easy as people were making it out to be.
No. Oh, it was, Nicky. It was easy. It was a mark that should have been taken.
Yeah, look, you might have dropped the Nicky, but Feen and I would have caught it.
Yeah. The simple fact is,
I can't see it coming.
That the lad just needs to put the bow and arrow away and wait until he's achieved something. I don't mind the bravado, I don't mind the celebration, but I think they just need to just sort of pull their heads in and be a bit more humble until they've actually achieved something. And Charlie Cameron's the same. So anyway, so we're left with a bloody grand final of Richmond
that I don't care about.
That I don't care about either. That I'm torn because I can't stand Richmond. Like, can't stand them.
Yeah. But I don't want Danger to get a premiership.
Exactly really right. Exactly right.
That's where I'm going. And I'll actually, oh my God, be barracking for Richmond. They do have a good song.
Well, earlier in the year, I said Richmond couldn't win the flag. I changed my tune about 3 or 4 weeks before the end of the...
You did?
Now I said I think they can win the flag.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stick with that. And the reason I'm going to stick with that is last time they met, and they did... It wasn't at the Brisbane Cricket Ground. It was at the Metricon. They absolutely paddywhacked Geelong. They absolutely made them look stupid. And so I think, psychologically, I think they've got a big advantage over Geelong. And I think what they do have, they've got totally different games. Richmond play the chaos. They play the chaos game and move it. Everything's forward movement. It's all forward movement. It's flat out and it's chaos. And then on the other hand, you've got Geelong, who try and do steady and a pass here, try and keep control till the opportunity comes. But you make one error against Richmond, and it's like a pack of mad dogs descends upon you.
Yeah, and they've got a lot of options for goal. A lot of options on goal. Yeah,
and I'm just trying to think of the young lad, the Indigenous young lad who's really, really blossomed in the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Sydney Stack?
No.
Shai Bolton.
Shai Bolton.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you what, everybody's saying how good Martin is, but the Shai Bolton, I'll tell you what, he has been a driving force in their wins in the last few weeks.
Yes, and really stood up.
Yeah, he's got exhilarating pace, and he's got the ability to twist and turn, and he's got vision. He's got vision as well. I just think he's been a great player for them, and all their other little speeches, I think he's inspired them as well. And I think that Richmond will be too good.
Nick?
I just don't want Danger, and I really, really, really hate Geelong more than I hate Richmond.
I hate Richmond, but I think they're going to win it.
Yeah. I also, where I'm also coming from there is that I think that as much as we hate it, Richmond have that experience. And they just know how to stifle teams. And Geelong are very predictable. They play pretty much one way. And as you pointed out, Fiend, they know how to stop it. So I think it's not going to be high scoring. And I think they'll just have too much class and too much coaching nous for Geelong to handle.
I think there's only 2 ways that Richmond lose games at the moment. It's A, if they don't bring their intensity, and B, if a team matches them for intensity and takes their chances, which is what Brisbane did the other week. They don't lose the second way very often. In the last couple of years, if they've brought 100% intensity, they've tended to win. And I don't think Geelong are capable of putting enough pressure on Richmond to be able to stifle them the way Brisbane did a couple of weeks ago, which is the only other way I think Richmond lose. So I actually think Richmond will belt Geelong. I really do.
That's what Yeah, I do too, because it comes down to leg speed. And I know they've got totally different game plan styles, but etc. But Geelong are forced to play that way because they don't have leg speed.
Yeah.
They're actually relatively slow.
Yeah.
Side.
Yeah. Well, I think Geelong will get belted. I think they rely on too few. And Hawkins has a bad game. They don't have many other goal kicking options. They'll spread Paddy as thin as they possibly can. And look, all credit to Dangerfield. He is playing like a man who knows that he's got limited chances left at a premiership, and he has been willing that side into the grand final. I think his final series has been immense. It really has. But I don't think he's got enough mate. I don't think he's got enough mates. Ablett will make a cameo.
No.
Selwood is.
But they'll stop Ablett more than what Brisbane did.
Yeah, well, I mean, at the end of the day, they just didn't match up properly on that. I mean, they put bloody what's his name on Ablett. I can't think of his bloody name now, but it was just a ridiculous matchup. It was never going to work. Long and the short of it, I think Richmond will win in a canter. I don't think the only leveler might be weather. I don't know what the weather's going to be like, but I think Richmond will win easily.
Yeah, I think it was supposed to be really hot, like 27 degrees, and
so it'll be dewy.
And high moisture level. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to finish off, we had the Brownlow medal on Sunday night, which is the reason why we're here on a Wednesday night, because, heaven forbid we miss out on watching the Brownlow. It was an interesting affair.
I quite happily didn't.
Interesting attire. But, gee whiz, have you ever seen a more runaway leader than bloody Lachie Neale? Absolutely scorched.
Had a one after about 6 games.
Yeah. And look, well deserved too.
Well, absolutely well deserved. But the two blokes that ran second and third, Steele from St Kilda and Boakey from Port, both had great seasons themselves. And in a normal year, they'd be in the count. But Lachie Neale was just paid a head and shoulders above everybody else, and. Well done by Lachie Neale. And when you read his story and what he has to say and way he's gone about it, all you can have is admiration for the guy. Bit of a worry about his missus. He didn't want to know him when he was nobody, and quite happy to have him when he's somebody.
No. He was only bloody 17 when he first approached her, and she was 22 or 23 or something. He was only a kid.
Yes.
Yeah, not a bad-looking woman, though. Not a bad-looking woman.
No. And obviously they're a great partnership as well. It's not a trophy wife situation by any stretch, I don't think. So good on them. The last thing I'd point out on the Brownlow, Mac and Nick, is that H. Greenwood and Jay Lyons, 20 votes. Adelaide Football Club, 20 votes.
Yes, well, there you go.
It does help when you're playing in teams that are winning.
Yeah, it does. But 20 votes, has anybody ever had low? Oh, well, of course, I've never had a 17 game season before, but it'd be interesting to know whether any team's ever had 20 or less votes after 17 game matches.
I just think it's ironic after Rashudo came out and bagged Greenwood earlier in the year. Greenwood's outvoted 90% of the Adelaide team with 11 votes. So
I think all season, every time I watch Gold Coast, you think, why did we let him go?
Well, because you don't listen to me. And Pete, for that matter.
and me, yep. We didn't want to let him go.
Was that ever on the running sheet?
No, I just added that in.
Can we also though highlight, as amongst those 20 votes, 3 votes. 3 votes, Lachie Shoal for his body of work.
Yeah, and 0 votes to the lad who got the nomination from Collingwood. What was his name again? Can't remember.
Isaac Quaynor.
Quaynor, that's right. 0 votes.
Who's a very good player, and the club was actually brilliant in what they tweeted out about him. But yeah, come on, AFL.
Yeah,
just fess up now. It's not on a good game; it's a body of work.
Agreed. Bullshit.
How can it be a body of work when you give votes in round 1, 2, and 3? It's just bullshit.
PJ Crow's helping us out. GWS had 19 votes one year.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
I don't find that comforting. Look, we'll leave it there. It's been a big night, lots to talk about. We've got a grand final coming up. Thanks to everyone who has joined us on Discord tonight, and those who've listened in live on Facebook and YouTube and also Twitch. Don't forget, if you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/AFL CrowCast and get around that. You can join us on Discord. Those on Discord will notice I've added a few more chat channels in the chat section. I will, if you do have some comments about the trades and draft situation, get in the AFL Trade and Draft chat channel. We'll hopefully get something going in there, post a few things and make a few comments. That includes you two as well, Macca and Nikki. Get in there and get amongst it. If you're into F1, I'm always up watching F1, so feel free to come and have a chat. And if you're into the NFL, hello American Crow, whose team, the Cleveland Browns, got slaughtered by the Pittsburgh Steelers last Monday night, 30-7. If you don't mind.
Yeah, we won't talk about my team.
So American Crow was giving me shit on Big Footy all week, and I just played it cool, didn't bite back, just had faith in my team, and they delivered in spades. Cleveland were a rabble. Anyway, so we will be back on Sunday evening. What is the AFL Grand Final on the Saturday or the Sunday? It's a Saturday, isn't it?
Saturday night.
Saturday night.
Saturday night. Yep. So we'll be back on the Sunday night for a quick Grand Final wrap up, and then we'll continue on Sunday nights during the trade period and the draft and all that sort of crap. So we'll be around. Macca might turn up occasionally.
I will turn up, Fiend. I'll turn up.
Very good.
Just add water to the show.
Yeah, right. Look, thanks everyone for joining us. It's been good as usual.
Quick, Macca! Party Magic!
Yep.
What's going on now? Oh yeah,
Eagles.
And congratulations to the bloody Eagles who finally didn't choke in the grand final. Finally didn't choke in the grand final.
Yeah, that word is mentioned.
Got some revenge on North Adelaide too, didn't they? After that 19 man on the ground fiasco.
They were fantastic, the Eagles, and they are a real good side. I reckon there's probably about 3 players in there that will go in the draft anyhow.
Yeah. I like their midfielder. I reckon I wouldn't mind seeing him in Crow's colours. Young Poulter. Is it Caleb Poulter?
Foot, you talking about foot?
No. Poulter. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Too late. We're over. It's out. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Night all.
Yeah, night all.